The stillness of a Wednesday evening near the nation's capital was shattered by an unthinkable event. A collision over the Potomac River plunged two aircraft into the icy waters, leaving a trail of debris and unanswered questions. As darkness fell, the magnitude of the tragedy began to unfold, gripping the nation with a mix of horror and disbelief. The crash, involving a passenger plane and a military helicopter, served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictable nature of fate. The incident, occurring just before 9 p.m. local time, sent shockwaves across Washington, D.C. and beyond. Witnesses described a scene of chaos and confusion as the two aircraft, seemingly out of control, plummeted into the frigid waters of the Potomac. The immediate aftermath was met with a surge of emergency responders, their flashing lights cutting through the night as they raced against time to locate survivors. The proximity of the crash to Ronald Reagan National Airport, a major hub for air travel, only amplified the sense of alarm. The airport, known for its stringent security measures and bustling atmosphere, was immediately thrust into a state of lockdown. Takeoffs and landings were halted, leaving passengers stranded and anxious as news of the disaster spread. The usually vibrant air traffic control tower fell silent, replaced by the frantic chatter of emergency communications. As first responders battled the elements and the fading light, a sense of dread settled over the nation. The crash, a grim reminder of the potential for disaster even in the most heavily regulated airspace, raised serious concerns about aviation safety and the circumstances that led to this catastrophic event. The investigation, still in its early stages, promised to be long and complex, fueled by a collective desire to understand how such a tragedy could occur. At the heart of this tragedy were two aircraft, their paths intersecting with fatal consequences. American Airlines Flight 5342, en route from Wichita, Kansas, was on its final approach to Reagan National Airport, carrying the hopes and dreams of 64 souls, 60 passengers and 4 crew members. Among them were families returning from holidays, business travelers concluding their journeys, and perhaps even some experiencing the wonder of flight for the first time. The other aircraft involved, a Sikorsky H-60 Black Hawk helicopter, represented the might and discipline of the U.S. Army. On board were 3 soldiers from Fort Belvoir, engaged in a routine training exercise. Their mission, likely a familiar dance of maneuvers and drills, turned into a nightmare in an instant. The Black Hawk, a symbol of American military prowess, became entangled in a tragedy that would test the nation's resilience. The contrast between the two aircraft was stark. One, a symbol of civilian transportation, connecting people and places. The other, a workhorse of the armed forces, designed for missions of defense and strategy. Yet, on this fateful night, their destinies became intertwined in the most tragic of ways. The collision served as a reminder that accidents can strike anytime, anywhere, affecting people from all walks of life. As investigators began piecing together the events leading up to the crash, the differences between the two aircraft became crucial points of analysis. The size and maneuverability of the helicopter compared to the passenger plane, the training and experience of the pilots involved, and the communication between the aircraft and air traffic control would all be scrutinized in the search for answers. The investigation, a complex puzzle with life-altering implications, had only just begun. The icy grip of the Potomac River held more than just wreckage. It held the answers to a tragedy that had stunned a nation. Divers, braving the treacherous currents and frigid temperatures, embarked on a solemn mission to recover the remains of those lost and to retrieve the crucial pieces of evidence that would help explain the crash. Each piece of debris, each recovered voice recording, and each recovered data log held the potential to shed light on the events leading up to the collision. The search and rescue operation, a massive undertaking involving hundreds of personnel, was Section 4. A fateful flight path, piecing together the events. Like a puzzle scattered by a cruel twist of fate, the events leading up to the Potomac crash were being painstakingly pieced together by investigators. Air traffic control recordings, witness accounts, and radar data formed the cornerstones of their investigation. Each new piece of information, like a brushstroke on a canvas, helped to paint a clearer, though no less devastating picture of the moments leading up to the collision. Preliminary reports suggested that American Airlines Flight 5342 was on its final descent into Reagan National Airport, following standard procedures for landing. The Black Hawk helicopter, on the other hand, was conducting a training exercise to the south of the airport, operating under visual flight rules, which meant the pilots were responsible for seeing and avoiding other aircraft. According to sources close to the investigation, air traffic control had been in communication with both the plane and the helicopter shortly before the crash. The helicopter pilot had reportedly requested visual separation after confirming sight of the approaching passenger plane. This request, seemingly routine in the world of aviation, hinted at the crucial moments where a series of decisions, or perhaps a tragic misunderstanding, led to disaster. The investigation, still in its early stages, was focusing on a number of key questions. What were the exact maneuvers of both aircraft in the moments leading up to the collision? Were there any external factors such as weather or bird activity that could have contributed to the incident? Was there a breakdown in communication between the pilots or between the aircraft and air traffic control? These questions, heavy with implication, fueled the tireless efforts of the investigators as they sought to unravel the truth behind the tragedy.